What's up, everybody, and welcome to Game Week 2's Live Before Lock. I'm actually Jeb Bush, and with me I have Ghost. How's it going, Ghost? How'd your game week 1 go?
What's going on, Jeb? I was very rusty, man. I didn't really do much buying in the off season. I was really just playing with the cards that I had accumulated last season. So I was trying to put together some lineups, and they didn't go well. So it's going to be a tough grind early in the season. I'm going to really try to just do kind of like a road to glory for anyone who plays FIFA and just play with the cards I got and not try to spend too much on the market.
Yeah, no. I mean, same here. I didn't do good at all, and part of it was just I think game weeks 1 and 2 especially are going to be super weird because you have a player like Jordan Poole who did horrible in the playoffs. So now he's got this crazy low cap, even though he's got the max usage. So I think we're going to see a lot of this kind of is, I think game week 1 and 2 especially are just kind of like you should play with what you got. Like there are going to be people that have like, the handful of people that have a Chet that are playing him at a 0. So you're not going to be able to compete with stuff like that.
So can you, I haven't been paying super close attention to the rookie situation. Have they just like trickled out the supply there? Or I've been looking for them on the market, but I haven't seen them. So do you know any details on that?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because early or late, I guess at the beginning of season 1 and the end of season 1, they had some Chets that released. Like they did some Chets because they're like, I think he wasn't like on the IR or something like that. But there are some season 1 Chets with 0 caps that won't update until the end of game week 2 here. And then there are some rookies as well, not like the lottery picks, but a lot of the other rookies are currently in auction. So there are people that are scooping those up with a cap of 0. And then there's like I think there's a handful of like the premium players like a Scoot or a Victor because they did those draft edition ones. I think those were 101s. I can't remember if there might be multiples of those. So there's like at least a handful of people that might have a Victor even at a cap of 0. But the rest, like the main supply of rookies, especially for the lottery picks, will go on auction after their caps are set. So they're not at 0. So I think Sorare did a good job in the sense that they're not just allowing people to get absolutely slaughtered by the people with the biggest bankrolls. And I give them props because they probably would have made a lot more money if they did do that. But, I think they're paying attention and trying to make a healthy product as opposed to make the most money.
Especially this year, it feels like there's a ton of impactful rookies too. I feel like that would just be a mess early on with how overpowered those cards would be. I mean, I think you have like 5 to 10 players that are already like in big roles that are going to be putting up huge numbers early on. So very interesting to watch.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to see what happens with this whole situation once they really unleash those rookies. I see everyone in the chat saying Mike's asleep or is Mike gone? Mike's on vacation of some sort, so me and Ghost are filling in as best as we can. So apologies if I'm not as crazy as Mike is here, but we're doing what we can do. So Ghost, is there any plays right off the bat this game week that really have stuck out to you? I know we're all kind of just getting into the swing of things still, working with what we got. Are there any cards that you have that you're really excited about right now? Is there a particular lineup that you think you're pretty strong with right now?
So do you want to go through like a maybe like a low cap to the mid tier to the high cap? We could start with like some of the lower tier guys and go through if you want to go through
Yeah,
the sheet here.
yeah. Let me pull
Um,
up the sheet.
Sweet. So a few low cap guys. I'll start with my low caps here. Cam Thomas, baby. I'm so excited that he was getting minutes early in the season. We
Yeah,
were kind of waiting all last season for him to be freed. Never really happened, even though he was putting up like 30 points a game when he did score, or when he did get minutes, and he had another one of those explosions last game to start the season. So hopefully we see more of that. But at a 9 L10 there, I think he's a really good play if he continues to get minutes. Another
yeah.
one, which I know Mike has been hitting a ton of, is Jonathan Kuminga. He's still only at a 5 L10. He's getting a
The
ton of
cum
minutes.
bucket.
Yep. And the amount of minutes he's getting and the role that he has on that team right now at just a 5 L10 is kind of like a must play for me if you have him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Here, sorry, wait a second. Gotta yeah, no, I mean Kaminga Cam Thomas, first of all, it's a shocker how unenthusiastic the Nets seemingly were about letting this guy play. And then day one, they're just like, yeah, go crazy. Um, and I think one thing that's interesting is we saw Cam Thomas go absolutely nuclear last game, and we can see here. I mean, he's considered a pretty good value, like you said, with the cap at 9, but he's only projected to hit 18 here. And I honestly, I know he only has one game, but I do feel like it's totally possible that he could, do a little bit better than that. People are saying zoom in, so here, give me a sec, guys. Let me reshare. Let me reshare my screen here and see if I can make it a little clearer.
I was trying to go through before the show just to see who were like the sub 10 guys who are getting like consistent minutes already early on. A couple other ones that kind of stuck out to me were Zaire Williams at 8 for Memphis. He played, I think, 28 minutes or something like that. He's got a big role. Malik Beasley on Milwaukee, he's at a 5 cap. So I think finding those guys that are just like sub 10 caps that are just getting that experience and that role or the minutes out there, like that's just like the biggest thing to find for those guys, especially for like the underdog competitions where you're just looking to not get a zero out of some of those guys.
Yeah, no, I believe Malik Beasley. Let me see if we can find him. I think I was checking earlier. Yeah, he has a cap of 5, and he's projected to drop almost 30, which is kind of crazy. I'm like, what? He only has one game too, so I don't know. He didn't do particularly well or do anything significant in his game yesterday. So I am interested to see if this projection is like even is remotely close. I think he's a really interesting one. I think another one that I really like is Yuta. I think he's a little bit more of a risk here because I mean we saw him get even some more extended minutes yesterday, and he didn't really do too much with them. But I do feel like just based on last year, where he was just going on that absolute tear and getting those open threes, I think we're going to see more of that this year. And the question is really when. So while everyone's not so hot on Yuta right now, I feel like it's only a matter of time before he does something that makes him a valuable so rare play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little worried about Yuta early on with his usage, especially with Booker and Beal both missing time, and like he still only got 15 or 14 minutes and 17 minutes in the first two. So I'm curious to see how his minutes expand, but I would have liked to see a little bit more playing time and a role there with those guys out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, we're seeing in the chat. I think there's two things we're gonna go over injuries and who's playing, who's in, and who's out in a sec. But people are kind of already pre-firing here. So Simmons, the big news is Simmons is out 4 to 6 weeks with a thumb injury. And how do we think that's going to affect Sorare? Is it? It looks like we have Trey's World Shorts asking, is Sharp going to go off? Yeah, who do you think is going to really pop from this?
I love Shaden Sharp. Unfortunately for Shaden Sharp in So Rare, he's already at a 38 cap from last year. So he ended last season on a complete tear and and Portland obviously didn't make the playoffs. So a lot of those guys from that were fringe players that were kind of playing towards the end of the season are elevated right now. So I think that
Yeah.
Sharp will probably be the beneficiary of that. But it's just hard to get him in the lineup at that price because there's just not a lot of room for upside.
Yeah, even with his current upside with the additional usage, him surpassing a 38 seems almost hopeful. I don't know how much further than that he's going to get for this game week at least. Um, and then I'm seeing Zilly asking Ben Simmons thoughts. Claxton's out. One thing that's interesting is we're seeing kind of a LeBron esque PR like run with the Simmons news. I saw some like big Twitter account tweet out his stats and they put like rebounds first, and
I
someone
saw
was
that too.
like, "I've never seen rebounds put first," and it seems like a lot of people really want Ben Simmons to kind of return to glory. Obviously, the Nets being one of the biggest people here. And if we look at the projections here, we can see with a cap of 16, he's projected to hit 41, which is a pretty substantial play. And if you think he's going to hit that, that's almost a must play in like a contender lineup or even an underdog lineup there.
I was watching some of his highlights earlier. I thought he looked aggressive at least, which is like more than we can say for most of last season, where you just felt like he was completely broken. So, I mean, at a
Yeah.
16 cap, I mean, he's definitely not a great click. You never feel good about putting him in the lineup because he's always prone to just have one of those broken games like last year where he does nothing. But I do feel a little bit more confident in him putting up some stats this year, and he's looked pretty good so far. I mean, his shot wasn't falling, but he was involved on the boards. He was passing. So, I mean, I like that skill set, especially for fantasy purposes with how he racks up defensive stats. So if he could just not be completely broken like last year, I think he is a great upside right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that I think aggressive is a relative term when it comes to Ben Simmons because I watched his highlights too, and I was like, I definitely, to your point, it didn't seem like he was absolutely terrified of the basket for once. So I mean, hopefully that trend continues in the right direction. I know Underdog put out a boosted line at 6.5 points, and hopefully he's at least just putting up volume of shots because at some point you would think those would have to fall and he'll start to get it figured out. But a line at 6.5 points is not very good. It makes me a little bit hesitant on the Simmons play, but I do think he's a pretty interesting you know uh like boom or bust type of guy that you could put in your lineup.
I agree. We want to go to Georges Niang.
Yeah, Georges Niang, a player that I am always surprised about when they get brought up. So he has a cap of 5. He's projecting for about 17 to 18 points. How do you feel about Niang on his new team, the Cleveland Cavaliers?
So at that cap, I don't hate him, but he didn't produce a ton. He did get 19 minutes, which is like a solid role for a guy at that cap. He only put up 5 so rare points previously. So I think if you're desperate or your collection isn't too built out and you need to find some of those low cap guys that are just going to actually play minutes, I think he's a good click. But I don't think I'm not projecting him to have like a ton of upside or be like a game winning play there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a solid call there. Um, Halliburton is questionable. He has an illness. He might not play. Who do you think kind of fills in and takes over that usage? You got Mathurin, as Ibrahim is pointing out here, or you have TJ McConnell, one of my favorite so rare plays, who might get a little more run too. And, he weirdly can put up some pretty solid scores when he's given that extra minutes. Because I think, especially right now, the Pacers just have a lot of we saw it in game one. Halliburton got that double double without a problem because they have a lot of options now, and he's an elite passer. So it's kind of you know, it's a tough one because Mathurin if he's not getting those assists, his points might actually kind of suffer or be limited because you have an Obi Toppin and a Miles Turner and all these guys demanding the ball and getting shots up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the last I saw on that update, I think it said that he's still expected to play. So it's a tough call to make with lineups locking tonight. So I'm
Yeah.
leaning towards this early in the season, if they're saying that now, that he's probably going to play. If he doesn't, obviously, I think that TJ McConnell is a great play. Pretty much every time we saw Halliburton miss a game last year, TJ McConnell was just an absolute smash play. But I think it's tough to slot him in given what we know right now. I would expect Halliburton to play. We also saw Bruce Brown have a really good game. So I think that
Yeah.
Indiana is just going to be like a sneaky good team. And I actually kind of like seeing Obi Toppin finally have like a role on a team, because it kind of feels like he was just always buried in New York. So they've got like a kind of island of misfit toys kind of lineup, but it I think they're going to be scrappy and kind of work out. So I'm interested to see how Indiana does this season. I think they're going to be better than people expect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think I think the fact that they hung basically 150 points on the Washington Wizards kind of is a bit of a wake up call to like really, in terms of fantasy and Sorare, how like lucrative betting on some of those players might be. Because and it is Washington, so we want to take it with a grain of salt because they're expected to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. But I mean, we know that the Pacers are going to be running at just an insane speed and pace. And with someone like Halliburton who can find open guys, to your point, it might make a Toppin or a Miles Turner just a really good play this season repeatedly.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't know if you want to continue going. I know we hit the low caps briefly. If we want to go on to the mid caps,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's get back to that. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. I was trying to catch up, and I always want to answer some questions. But yeah, let's get back to it. Let's talk about some mid cap plays. Who's sticking out to you?
All right, so I made a little list before the show of so this was like my 10 to 20 type guys. Josh Okogie was the first one that caught my eye at 11. He's just good, just flat out can play. And we already know that Booker, I think, is missing another game. Not sure about Beal,
It
but
doesn't
Okogie
seem
is
like
just
it doesn't seem like they're rushing back Beal either. That's for sure.
yeah, I agree. It just seems like Okogie is already super active and a big. He plays a huge role. He's got back-to-back 30-minute outings already, so he got like a small but decent sample size in the two games that he's already playing over 30 minutes a game, and he's got 24 and 27 Sorare points in those two. So at 11 cap, I think he's a smash play there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I will admit I'm one of the first people to be kind of surprised about Okogie's doing really anything on the fantasy stat sheet because I honestly, when I saw he was starting, I was like, I mean, he's a glorified kind of cone in some degree. But he's proven me wrong very early, and like you said, he can just play. And when you have that much pull of a Durant where there's double teams and people trying to deny him the ball, there are going to be opportunities for a guy that can shoot on the outside and also drive and crash the boards as well. So I love that call. Yeah, I think he'll do decent there for sure. Who else do you got?
All right, my second one was Grant Williams.
Ooh, I
We
love that.
finally saw what he looks like and what his role might be in Dallas. So 35 minutes, you love to see that in his debut, and he's kind of hard to fade at a 12 cap there, given that usage next to Luca.
Yeah, and Grant Williams is a guy who can put up so rare points on both sides of the court. Like he can shoot the three, and he's also automatically one of the best defenders on the Mavs. So he's going to get you some blocks. He's going to get you some steals. Unfortunately, he does do a lot of things that don't appear on the box score at the end of the day, which that's always a little frustrating when you see a player like a PJ Tucker, or I'm trying to think who else, like a Marcus Smart even, who they're active, they put a lot of energy out, and they do a lot of things that don't get rewarded. So rare points. But I think to your point, in Grant Williams' new role, like he is a very key part of this team. He will be getting a lot of opportunities where he can just sit in the corner and Luca will draw all five guys on the opposite team to him and then whip it out for open threes. So I really like that. I really like that call for the entire season. I think Grant Williams will have a lot of opportunities to really be an impactful player, both for the Mavs and for Sorare lineups.
Yeah, I see in the chat Taco Slayer bring up Isaac Okoro too, and I feel like I've been conditioned by Mike. Mike absolutely hated Isaac Okoro last year, just always called him trash, and he didn't do too much with his minutes last year, but he started off the season well this year. So we saw 31 minutes in his debut, 18 points. So if he's gonna have a good role like that, obviously he's a good click there at 11 cap.
Yeah, I don't know. I for the longest time definitely held out against Mike and was like, "No, Mike, you're wrong. Okoro's good." But yeah, I don't know. I need to see more of him before I'm willing to buy on Okoro, whether it's for so rare or just in general to like actually believe in him contributing to the team beyond being a defensive specialist. Because on the flip side, like you do have Max Struess now, who I mean, right now, Okoro probably gets a little more run because Jared Allen's out, but uh, in the long term, Okoro is going to get overshadowed by Struess, especially if Struess continues to play the way he's playing.
Yep, and I think the courtside asked Akoji over Okoro. I think that I would probably go Josh Okogie there over Okoro
Yeah,
personally.
I agree with that one. I agree with that one. Any other mid-level plays that you have?
We kind of hit the other two that I have on my list here. Ben Simmons, I think, is a good click at 16. Just
Yeah,
too much upside there to avoid. And then Jordan Poole sneaking in below the 20 cap at 19 there. I think you just absolutely, if you have a Jordan Poole card, you just need to be getting him in your lineup until his cap goes up, because I think him and Kuzma are just going to get up a million shots on this terrible team. And he's already got his
yeah.
ring. Washington's not going anywhere. It's like the perfect situation for him to just mess around and just put up huge stats every night.
I mean, the perfect example of that is the fact that this guy had a horrific like opening night and still put up 30 so rare points. Like he
Hmm.
didn't hit a single three. Like imagine what starts happening when they keep falling. Another guy that I think you got to mention when you mention Kuzma and Poole is actually Tyus Jones, because Tyus Jones has that exact same cap. Basically, he has a cap of 20. As you can see, he's projected to do like double that basically, which is always great. And Tyus Jones, I think he's one of my favorite so rare plays from last year, and I think he's going to become an even bigger so rare play for me this year now that he's getting like real consistent minutes. Like if Poole's going off, if Kuzma's going off, the guy that's going to be facilitating them primarily is Tyus Jones, and he's really going to put points off that. He's a sneakily good rebounder for like his size, and you know he can shoot the lights out of a building too. And if Poole and Kuzma start getting hot, guess who's going to be a way more open? It's going to be Tyus Jones. So
I
I
love
love,
Tyus.
yeah, Tyus. I think Tyus is so good. I'm so excited to see what he does, not only as a starter, but if he gets traded to a competitor where, like, let's say, like, you know, the Suns kind of need a real point guard. I'm trying to think who else. The Heat need a real point guard. Like if he gets traded before the deadline to one of those teams, I'm so excited to see what he does. Both in so rare and in terms of like, you know, going on a playoff run with that team.
Yep, I'm seeing some Time Lord chatter in the chat, which I also think is a good shout there. I think he's at like an 18 cap. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
18.
so Jamie, if you could, I don't have access to the chat for some reason to elevate it up there, but
Oh yeah.
There we go. Jamie says, "What about Robert Williams? Kind of low cap and Aiden sucks, so he should get decent minutes." I don't hate Aiden as much as Jamie might, but I do think that Robert Williams just produces a ton, no matter when he's on the court. So if he's going to be getting minutes on that team, he's going to be producing. So I like Robert Williams at just an 18 cap as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I'm a little less excited about Time Lord. I'm actually kind of in the Aiden camp. Uh, I mean, I know Aiden's stock is lower than ever, but I feel like there's such a high ceiling there for Aiden, especially if he, you know, gets his confidence up and starts to like really string together a good game or two. But to your point, I mean, Time Lord also just has that ceiling because of his blocking potential. And with Aiden on the court, he's going to be allowed to roam and maybe get a few more blocks. And blocks come at a premium in so rare when it comes to scoring. So not the worst call there. I kind of like that. Kind of like that. I see someone else in the chat. I see Magnum asking about Jalen Johnson, and Jalen Johnson went absolutely nuts game one. And I do have to give props to Mike Zakarian, who's not here to take him, but he was calling out Jalen Johnson, and I was kind of fading that. He was, especially in best ball, he started drafting him a lot, and I was like, I don't know how good Jalen Johnson is actually going to be. And I mean, it's still early in the season, but I was very, very impressed with his debut. And as we can see here, I mean, he's projecting to basically double his cap, which is always huge there. Did you get a chance to catch that first game? How do you feel about Jalen Johnson this game week?
Yeah, I saw some of the highlights. He looked super active, looked awesome. Definitely shout out to Mike for calling that one because I don't think Jalen Johnson was really high on my radar coming into the season, but it looks like he has a good role carved out. I think that was the biggest question last year, and yeah, I think he's a good click at 18. I would. Especially given I think what he had 29 minutes I think in his first game, so I like
Yeah.
the consistency and like anyone who's hovering around 30 minutes I think at a lower cap is always a nice play.
Yeah, yeah. The massive amount of minutes that early was a pleasant surprise for sure. And I think another one that kind of shocked me was Sadiq Bey, who kind of was in that same role where he has a similar cap at 19 to Jalen Johnson, and he got a surprising amount of minutes and usage and really made the most of it as well. It'll be very interesting to see how the Hawks lineup and rotations evolve as they kind of get it figured out. Because even though they got rid of what's his name? The guy that they traded to Utah. Shoot, I'm blanking. John.
John
Oh
Collins.
God, John Collins. Yeah, even though they got rid of John Collins, they still weirdly have a significant amount of talent, like almost too much, in terms of just a lot of really solid players. All right. Let's move on from the mid to the highs. Who are some of the high guys you have sticking out?
All right, so I creeped up a little bit more here. In the 20s, I like Jalen Duren a lot, and we saw him just absolutely explode on opening night
Oh
there.
yeah, he went
He
crazy.
he showed flashes last year, but it was a little bit inconsistent. But I think year two is going to be big for him, and just one of those guys, kind of like a Mark Williams, who is next on my list. But they both just rack up so many blocks and rebounds, and are just so freakishly athletic.
Yeah.
So Jalen Duren there, and Mark Williams, who me and Mike were riding the Mark Williams bandwagon all last year. He was never getting minutes, just completely buried on the depth chart. And it looks like he's finally freed and is going to have a big role this year. So I'm just super excited for that. I don't know if you saw him snatch that block out of the air, but that was like one of the coolest highlights of the early week already.
Yeah, no, that was insane. I mean, Mark Williams was incredible, and I think one thing that's interesting, going back to Jalen Duren real quick, was I think there was a lot of concern that he was going to get kind of like handicapped by Wiseman or Bagley coming off the bench, and we didn't see either of those guys play that game, which was a bit of a shocker. So I'm sure one of the two at least will get some time on the court. But very early on, it seems like they're down to let Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham really run, and along with Ivy kind of be that core moving forward. And they're going to try to develop those guys as much as possible, and maybe not put as much focus and importance on getting Wiseman consistent minutes or getting Bagley consistent minutes under their system. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because I do weirdly feel like Wiseman could be a really good sleeper pick in the future, but I'm not confident enough to go and scoop him up right now. That's for sure.
That's usually a Jeb play. I'm surprised you're not grinding the
Uh,
those penny
Oh,
plays.
I'm grinding. I've got Joe. Speaking of Detroit, I got Joe Harris that I'm really high on right now. He's sitting at about $2. I think he has a real opportunity, especially with Bojan out, to like really be that guy who kind of helps spread the floor and get some threes up. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not, though. Who else do you got? You said Jalen Duren, Mark Williams, of course, the
Yep.
God.
Two other ones in the 20s here. Devin Vassell, fresh off getting paid, he looked really good. So I like him at 29. And then my final one in the 20s, which is basically a must play for me, is Julius Randle. He's basically like a captain, maybe like right below a captain tier play that you can get for just 29. Oh, Jeb bounced out here. But yeah, Julius Randle pretty much carried my starter team all last season, and now he's stuck at that low cap from a crappy end of the season last year, and is just crushing it. Welcome back, Jeb.
Sorry about that. I had to go and grab something, but yeah. Okay. One thing I actually really wanted to talk about that was hilarious. I know you said you didn't catch the last live before lock, but I see Gnomes bringing it up, and that's that Covington is a sleeper. So on the last live before lock, Covington was just popping off the spreadsheet. And all of us like in the chat and you know, Mike included, and TST were all like, no, Covington, he isn't going to do anything. He's not even going to see any minutes. And then I think he dropped like 27 Sorare points with a cap of uh, of 14. Like he did something pretty. He was pretty significant. He could have been a great play in like an underdog lineup. So yeah, I see Gnome saying Covington's a sleeper. I would disagree, but I've already been proven wrong. So though I thought Norm Powell was going to be the big play on the Clippers, but seems like Covington's getting a bit more run, at least
So
to start. So that'll be interesting to
my only
see.
concern with Covington, I'm looking at his stats right now. So he played 23 minutes and he had the points that you said, but he only had 5 actual points, and a lot of his points came on the 3 steals there, 4 rebounds, 2
Yeah,
assists. I don't know. Steals are just so finicky and hard to predict that like I am a little bit more concerned knowing that that's where most of his points were coming from.
yeah, and that's my point. I still don't believe in this man at all. But at the same time, like he did exactly what the spreadsheets were saying, and we see again that he's popping again. And I'd be hesitant to fade the sheets a second time. So maybe he is a good sleeper pick. I just wanted to point him out because that was funny that everyone just chat and on stream was like, yeah, no, this guy he's not going to do anything, and then he proved everyone wrong. So all right, let's move on to like the guys in the 30 cap, I think would be next.
Sure. Is there anyone that's standing out to you in particular, or do you want me to hammer some of these guys? Or
Let's take a look here. If you have anyone, go for it. I do like Devin Vassell. I think you mentioned him. He's like right below that 30 cap. I think he just has a lot of opportunities playing with this a Victor Wembanyama who's going to take, all the heat. And we saw Vassell really shine out there in the opening game, and I think he's only can continue to excel. Jaylen Brown's kind of popping here. I don't ever love the Jaylen Brown play, but it's always a very good play.
he feels
It's
very
just
low too at 31.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that would be the main reason you're playing him, not necessarily thinking he's going to explode. But we know he does have those games where he absolutely pops off and Tatum takes a back seat. So, you know,
I would be a little bit more worried with him given their who they brought in. I think the Celtics are like an absolute championship contender, and I thought that Porzingis looked amazing. But I wonder if Porzingis is now that number 2 like go-to scorer, and Brown's usage takes a big hit there because of that.
I think at the very beginning, it's going to be very hard to kind of predict what's going to happen there because they're still figuring it out along with us. We're just watching. They're still figuring out who gets what. So I do think Brown will have some great so rare games in the future, but I think right now he's more of a high floor than and a low ceiling. I don't think, to your point, Chris Stapps is definitely offensive minded, and he's the one that's going to be eating up a lot of that usage.
He's
Um,
I was looking at his cap too, and he's a tough play because I think he's already a 46 or something like that. Which I was
yeah,
looking at because
he's
I
super
wanted
high.
to play him because I feel like he's looking great right now, but he's just such a high cap that it's not really worth it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We're seeing Jakob Pertl, or Derek White. Without looking at the spreadsheets, I would kind of go White, but we literally just talked about kind of the usage concerns with Jaylen Brown. And if there's usage concerns with Jaylen Brown, then there's definitely usage concerns with Derek White. He kind of has a bit of a high cap here. I don't hate the play, but I do know that I do think Pirtle is projecting a little higher. Uh, they're actually kind of projecting the same. I don't know. I would personally choose White. What about you?
I think I would lean Pirtle there.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
I think that he has more room on his team to accrue those stats. I like both of them, and I think that's very close. I think I would
Yeah.
just slightly lean Jakob there.
Kind of in the same vein here, Pirtle or Nurkic. I
Ooh.
personally go Nurkic if Booker and Beal are out, just because he has more responsibility and he's going to get some additional rebounds, additional offensive rebounds to clean up some points. And considering he did decent against Anthony Davis, who's a bigger, like great defender. I feel pretty confident about Nurkic being pretty effective in their game
Yeah,
against, I don't remember who.
I would lean Nurkic as well there.
Okay, cool. Clarkson or Wiggins? Ooh, so I would go Wiggins because I'm extremely high on Andrew Wiggins this year. But I don't know if that's more of an emotional thing or just me just wanting my best ball lineups to really crush because I believed in him all off season. What about you there?
I'm a Mizzou alum, so I got to root for my boy Jordan Clarkson, who was there at the same time for me as me. I think I would go Clarkson's a slight lean there. I'm not as big on Andrew Wiggins as you are, but just a slight lean to Clarkson, and he had a good game in the first outing. He put up 36.
Yeah,
So always like to see him starting off hot.
it looks like Clarkson's projecting better, and yeah, for me, if I'm saying Wiggins, it's also just kind of a sunk cost like lean. So don't take my opinion too seriously. All right, what do we? Ant or Halliburton? I kind of like this. Let's transition kind of to the MVP talk here, and let's talk about two of the bigger MVPs with Anthony Edwards and Halliburton. Who are you feeling there?
I mean, I'm gonna assume that Halliburton plays and that he's completely fine. So I would lean Halliburton there. I just think he just racks up more points and those assists. Like I feel like he's gonna be a double machine. I think
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards probably has the higher upside to go for like that moonshot where he's gonna win you the week. But I think if you're looking for just like who's gonna outscore who on a regular basis, I would go Halliburton there.
yeah, I would definitely do the same thing. I think Anthony Edwards is unfortunately in the situation where, if Rudy Gobert's on the court, while like their defense is great, he clogs up the lane. He really interferes with Edwards' game, or like at least limits it to some degree. And I think they're going to figure it out. I think the Timberwolves are going to do well this year, but I think at least at the beginning right now, I would fade Anthony Edwards compared to Halliburton for sure. I think Halliburton, like we said before, they're the fastest paced offense this year, probably, possibly in NBA history. And so I'm going to go with the guy that's kind of in charge of that.
Can you elevate the question above that? I want to hit the Bulls question there from Leon. Which Bull do you
Oh
think will
yeah,
score best?
you're a big
So
Bulls guy.
I am. I'm wearing my Jimmy Butler Miami shirt, but I am a Bulls fan. And they were an absolute dumpster fire in game one, and they had a
Players only
players only
mean.
meeting after game one, which is always an encouraging sign for the season. Which Bull do I think will score best, though, is I would have to lean Nikola Vucevic. I think he's been bitching a ton,
Yes.
and he's been yelling at his coach and wanting more touches, and I think he's going to get the squeaky wheel treatment this weekend, and I
Yeah.
think they're just going to feed him. So I would go Vucevic there.
Yeah, you know me. I'm always down to fade DeMar DeRozan, and I do think Vujovic is actually like a very solid play. He's just always a very sneaky good play, especially in like Sorare or DFS, just because he's basically a walking double double. And like you said, if he does get that squeaky real wheel treatment and get some more usage, like his ceiling, just exponentially increases.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
he wants them to play through Vucevic, and that was his whole thing in the press was saying that he wants people to play through him. So we'll see if they actually do that. But
yeah.
like you said, he's a double
I
machine.
mean, he's basically Jokic, right? That's what he's saying. Oh, all right. Aaron Gordon or DeAndre Ayton? I would guess that Gordon is probably projecting better, and I would lean him, even though my heart says to go with Ayton, just because I really believe him to have a lot of upside this year. But I think at least right now, Aaron Gordon's probably the play. What do you think?
It's the projections are really close. So Aaron Gordon's projected for 32,
Yeah,
and then Aiton
and then
is
Ayton's
at
33.
33. Wow, I would lean Aaron Gordon there. I thought he looked really good in the opener.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I think that there's more question marks about Aiton than there are about Aaron Gordon personally.
yeah, and I think on top of that, the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is kind of still figuring things out, it seems, and he's not like absolutely just firing off a crazy clip means that Aaron Gordon is going to get more touches and more open shots. And Aaron Gordon is like just one of the best. I would say he might be the best cutter on the Denver Nuggets, and Jokic is really good at rewarding those type of guys. So I like Aaron Gordon too. We got Tillman or Mark Williams. This one's very interesting because if you would have asked me this not that long ago, I would say, what are we doing? Mark Williams all the way. But Tillman went absolutely nuts game one, and he performed a lot better than I thought he would. What do you think? I think I still lean Mark Williams, though.
I think that there's few people you could put up against Mark Williams that I would take over Mark Williams right now. So
Yeah,
I think Mark Williams is an absolute like fantasy point per minute beast, and if he's getting those minutes, it's going to be tough to beat him. I do think that Tillman is a great long term play though, especially now that we know that Steven Adams is out for the season. Memphis just has a lot of holes right like in their front court, so I think that Tillman's going to be a great player to keep coming back to. But I would go Mark Williams there.
agreed. Okay, Sengun and Kessler or Fox and Aaron Gordon. Ooh, I think personally, I would go Fox and Aaron Gordon. We just talked about Aaron Gordon. I like his upside, and I think Fox just has a tremendous upside where, he can take over a game and really put up a crazy score. I think Sengun's very solid. I love Sengun. And I think Kessler's a very good player. I don't know if Kessler's the best so rare play, though, because once again, he's a defensive minded guy who does a lot of things that don't necessarily show up in the so rare box score at the end of the day. What do you think?
Yeah, he had a rough game one too, or just not super involved. So I think I would lean De'Aaron and Aaron Gordon. I think Fox is guaranteed to be that guy. Şengün had flashes last season where he could be like almost like a captain level player, and then he like completely fell off towards the end of the season. And he started off strong in his first game, I think, but I think I'd still lean on that Fox side just for the upside there.
Yeah, I really love the Fox side, and the fact that he has 2 games, I think, is what really pushes it over for me. So Sabonis can have one and Fox can have the other. Let's see who else we got. Brown or Barnes? I'm assuming this is Jaylen Brown, or are we talking Bruce Brown? Please clarify, because I feel like I mean what's Barnes' cap? It could really be anything.
Yeah, they're right
now.
next to each other. Jaylen Brown and Scotty Barnes are both
Okay.
31, so I'd assume it's between them.
Oh, Scotty Barnes. I was thinking Harrison Barnes for some reason because he went absolutely nuts in his first game. Okay,
Yeah,
Jaylen Brown and Scotty Barnes.
I would
Do
go
you want to go
Jaylen
first
Brown
on this
there.
one? You go Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, so Jaylen Brown's projected for 45 on the sheets here, and Scotty Barnes is at 39. So the projections have a slight lean towards Jaylen, and I would probably lean that way as well.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go against the sheets here. I'm gonna go with Scotty Barnes. I think it's very close for me, but the fact that he has 2 games, I think kind of pushes it over for me because of the fact of what we talked about with the Celtics and kind of just so many mouths to feed. You got Jaylen Brown for 1 game and you're hoping he really performs, but I think based on what we saw early on with Scotty Barnes, I would take that shot at that ceiling as opposed to taking Brown. But I think it's super close. I don't think you can really go wrong with either one. I think they're both great choices.
I'm going to pivot over to your side because I wasn't even thinking about the games played, and it was interesting because in that first slate, everyone pretty much had 1 game, so you weren't even like looking at it. And now I don't feel like I paid as much attention this time as I should have.
Yeah. It was interesting because there was some. It was weird because I was seeing like in like the Discord and stuff. Some people are like, oh, Warriors have 2 games. It's just not showing up. I was trying to or something like that. There was basically people saying like, oh, there's an error with so rare. And so I definitely played a guy or 2 that had 1 game that I thought was going to have 2. And so I'm having to retrain myself to really focus on that again as well. Because I think in this case, like because of how we talked about. Jaylen Brown's has the higher floor probably, but I think Scotty Barnes has the higher ceiling. And if he's got 2 shots at that higher ceiling, I'm going to take that.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. We got Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon. I would go Aaron Gordon here just based on game 1. I think maybe Porter Jr. has a slightly higher ceiling, but he definitely has a lower floor. And we kind of already talked about the upside of Gordon. So I think I'm going to stick with him. What do you think?
That's another Mizzou guy and Michael Porter Jr. I think I would lean MPJ. I liked what I saw from him. He had 38 in his first game here in 30 minutes. Both good plays. Both kind of same team here. Both good upside. I think I'm going to lean a little bit towards MPJ here.
I was gonna say the one thing that might suck is if you play one, the other one might go off and it might just affect the other guy that you play. It's either gonna
Right.
be one. I feel like you're either gonna pick one and be like, "Oh my gosh, I nailed it," or just be like, just have the most regret. So apologies in advance if I picked the wrong side, but yeah, that one's a tough one. They're both good players and they can both do very well here. Um, let's go up to best MVPs before it's too late here. I know we keep getting sidetracked because all these great questions in the chat, but who are
I
the
think
best MVPs you got?
the MVP situation, I think if you're just looking for strictly the best MVP on the slate, is not even close, and it's Nikola Jokic. He's the
Correct.
only one up there with 2 games. Pretty much everyone else has one there, and obviously Jokic is perennially one of the best plays you could possibly have on any game on any week.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. The other guy I'll point out that we kind of already talked about is Halliburton. I just love Halliburton. I think he is such a high upside, and like I think we've already said, or I've said 2 or 3 or 4 times at this point, like the offense looks fast, and that gives you just a lot more opportunities to score points. And so rare. Halliburton has that upside with steals. Even I would not mind throwing a dart there, especially if you're looking to buy an MVP and you don't want to spend the $300 for his limited, you can get a Halliburton for less than a third of the price. So those would be the two that I would look at. But yeah, Jokic is like so much like obviously the best play. If you have a Jokic, you got to lock him in every game week.
Yeah, the player projecting for the most points on the sheets is Luka at 56.5. And I think that he's only got 1 game, but I think that Luka's going to have an MVP type season after what we saw at a game 1. And so I think he's a great play as well. If I had to pick one of those guys that wasn't Jokic there.
Yeah, yeah. And then I mean, Giannis is another guy that's obviously one of the best players. It will be very interesting to see how Giannis is affected by Lillard, though, because we saw in game one, Lillard was the one that put up the most points in terms of Sorare, not Giannis. And that could really affect his value moving forward. We're going to see
Yeah,
some crazy Giannis games, but it might be not as consistent as it used to be.
yeah, I mean, and Giannis had a good game too. He got hammered by 7 turnovers,
Yeah.
so that really hurt his stats. He had 23 and 13 though, so not super worried, but it was very jarring to see Lillard kind of take control down the stretch in the fourth quarter, and Giannis was more of a spectator there, so kind of wild. But that's a scary duo right there, and I think that just in terms of pure basketball, like Milwaukee and Boston just feel way ahead of everyone else in the East, and it's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, we're seeing Curry or Fox. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm assuming we're talking Steph and not Seth here. So let's go ahead and take a look. We got Steph Curry at a cap of 49, projecting to hit about 44. And then we have Fox. He's at a cap of 45, projected to hit 42. So they're kind of both in the same space here. And then because of that, and they both have 2 games. Okay. Ooh, that's a toss up. I think I would once again pick Fox over Curry. I think Curry probably has the slightly higher ceiling, but I do think with Chris Paul being there and just watching Chris Paul play with the Warriors, I think it'll take some time for Paul to adjust from being a guy who holds on to the ball and dribbles around a lot to passing the ball a lot more and allowing other players to make plays. And I think for the time being, after watching that first game, I would fade Steph at least for like a couple game weeks. If I had a comparable play like Fox. What do you
Yep,
think?
I agree. I think you pretty much nailed it on the head there. So I don't have a ton to add to that comparison, but I would lean Fox.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, rank them: Toppin, Brogdon, and Dayron and Sharp.
Dayron and Sharp are the same person. Dayron Sharp.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just so
Just
used to
one
calling him
person.
Sharp. I was like, yeah, there wasn't a comma there. I should have known that. I would go. I would say Sharp's at the bottom because of his high cap. Um, what is Toppin's cap? I know Brogdon's cap is 16.
Toppin's
Toppin's
15.
15. Hmm.
So Dayron Sharp is getting some extra run because I think Claxton is out.
Oh yeah. You're right. Um.
So we saw
er,
this several times
Ooh.
last year where Sharp was kind of a good play anytime he was placed into the starting lineup. I do think that his cap was a little bit lower last year. He's at a 13 cap right now, which obviously isn't terrible, but it does cap his upside a little bit there.
Yeah, he's
Um,
projecting to to get 28 though. So they're all here. Everyone here is projecting to basically the same. We got Toppin with 15 cap, projecting to hit 25, and then Brogdon's got a 16 cap, and he's projected to hit 30. So I was gonna go Brogdon at the top anyway, but I think I'll do Brogdon, Sharp, and then Toppin.
I think that I would go ooh, Brogdon, Sharp, Toppin as well. But I
Okay.
actually that's funny because I am actually pretty high on Toppin, so I guess all of these guys are just pretty solid value plays there.
It feels very weird putting Toppin at the bottom because I think he's going to have a really good year. And being part of that Indiana offense with how fast and athletic he is, I think will provide a lot of opportunity. So I feel like I might be wrong there. But like you said, they're all really good plays. It's kind of hard to pick like definitively the best one there. All right. Best player, Kappa 22 or less. Let's see who we got. It looks like right away Nurkic is popping out as the best one here. And then D'Angelo Russell at a Kappa 21 would be the next. I would definitely go with Nurk above D'Angelo Russell. There's no world where I'll ever trust D'Angelo Russell with anything, especially one of my Sorare lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I think where was I here? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I don't love D'Angelo Russell either. And I think aside from Nurk, I think Tyus Jones at 20. No, we get two below what you were looking for there, but I think Tyus Jones is a great play as
Yeah.
well there,
Oh
as we
yeah.
mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Tyus Jones, I think, would be the best play. Nurk is a
Or
solid second one.
or go down one lower and you got Jordan Poole, who I think is probably better than both
Oh
of those as well.
man,
So
so many
I would
options.
I would play Poole at 19 probably if you're looking for someone on 22 or under.
Yeah, I love that. All right, trying to catch up with the chat here. Let's go pretty quick. Shay or Trey? I'm going SGA. I don't think it's even close here.
Yeah, I agree.
Love or Toppin? Kevin Love did have a good first game. Because they're a little shorthanded and he seems to be a little reinvigorated. Once again, I'm taking someone else over Toppin. I'm going to go Love. What about you?
Um, I am going to lean Kevin Love as well,
All
unfortunately.
right.
And
Yeah.
I, as a
It
big
feels
Toppin
so
fan, I
wrong.
yeah,
John Collins, Harrison Barnes, quickly Bay, D'Angelo Russell. All right, D'Angelo Russell's at the bottom for me. I'm going to put quickly at the top. I think quickly is going to have a lot of opportunity here. I think I'm going to go quickly Bay, John Collins, Harrison Barnes, D'Angelo Russell.
yeah, I think I agree with you.
Perfect. Easy. Quickly, we talked about Niang before. I've seen the question pop up in the chat a couple times. So just real quick, I think our summary basically was he's got a low cap. He played a lot of minutes, but he didn't really do a lot of things with those minutes. So we're not super high on him, but he's not the worst dart throw in the world. Would that about
Yeah,
summarize it?
if
Cool.
you're looking for a low cap that's not going to get a zero, I think that he can fit into your lineup, but I wouldn't expect a ton out of him.
Oh, this is interesting. This is something I was kind of seeing. Garland's very questionable. Do we get another Struce ceiling game?
The Struce is loose, baby. Love to see him getting some big minutes, and he crushed it in game one. So I like
Yeah.
that play. And if he's getting consistent minutes on that team, he's going to be like the third or fourth option. No one's going to be guarding him. So I like that option a lot.
Yeah, I like that option a lot too. Brogdon or Sharp? We kind of already touched on this. I'd take Brogdon slightly over Sharp, but it's very close. I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
Yep, I agree.
Christian Brown or Zaire Williams? I am going Brown here. I know Zaire's starting, and he probably has the higher upside here. But after watching that first game that he played, did not really excite me too much. As opposed to watching Brown, who, I mean, he didn't really do anything on the stat sheet, but he looked good out there. He looks quick. He looks athletic. He's beating guys off the step. I think as he gets a little more comfortable with his new role, he's going to be a great Sorare play. But I still, even right now, I think I'd take him over Zaire.
I would lead Braun, Zaire Williams actually. I think that
Okay.
looking at the minutes, I think Zaire played like 28 in the opener.
Yeah.
Brown played about 17. I think his minutes on that championship roster are just a lot more up in the air than Zaire Williams on Memphis, where they kind of need all the bodies they can get.
Yeah, yeah, and that would be the upside play with Zaire. I think he has a higher ceiling than Braun, but I think I would still go Brown. I always call him Braun, but I would still go Brown, just because almost just because I trust Jokic more. Honestly, like if he's on the court with Jokic, he's going to get some easy dunks, and I think just watching him, I watched him very closely in Game 1 because I did have a bet on him that didn't hit. Um, but he just seemed a little timid, like he wasn't looking for his shot as much. And, maybe after that Game 1 jitters, the ring ceremony, all that emotion out of the way now, maybe he'll return and have a better game next time. We got projections on Dougie McDermott. I would imagine they're not great. He's projecting to hit 8 points with a cap of 18. So Sneeps, I would definitely not play Doug McDermott. Is Triple J at 40 a good play? What are you thinking there? What are you thinking there, Ghost?
And he's always frustrating. I mean, he has games where he can just go absolutely off and block a ton of shots and rack up those points, and then he has games where he feels like he's very inactive. He put up 27 and a half points in Game 1, but he gets a lot of minutes. Obviously, we've talked about how Memphis is kind of weak in the front court right now. So it's just tough to fit him in at that price for me. So I'd be looking elsewhere personally.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not the highest on Triple J. I think he does have a very high ceiling because he can obviously put up like a 10 block game and get you 30 points with that. Like that's not out of the question for him. But yeah, it's hard to trust him, especially without Steven Adams there, to be honest. So I would agree with you.
When you could get two more, when you go up 2 in cap and you could get Joel Embiid, it's just tough to fit like Jackson into my lineup unless like you don't really have a ton of options.
Yeah. Or even if you want to stay on that, get Zion, who I feel like weirdly has a higher floor, at least in this game week. Maybe not, in the future because he might be on the bench. But yeah, and Sabonis here, one below. I would definitely take Sabonis over Triple J. So yeah, Mikal Bridges or DeJounte Murray. Oh, this is a good one. And I like both of those. I'm a big Bridges guy. I really feel good about him this year. He's at a cap of 36, projecting to hit 38. And I'm assuming Murray's kind of the same. There he is, 40 for 35. So the projections are leaning Bridges slightly, and I would tend to agree with that. I think, Bridges being the guy on the Nets makes me automatically want to take him over the number 2 guy on the Hawks. And Bridges is a guy, I mean, I guess both Bridges and Murray will get you points on both sides of the court, but I do think Bridges is a better defender. So I'm going to go Bridges. What about you?
I will agree there, and I'm going to stick with the projections there as well.
Yep. All right. Lewis or Najee? Let's take a look here. Doesn't look like we have. I'm assuming this is Zeke Najee. There he is. He's got a cap of 8 and a projection of 16, which is not terrible. And then I'm assuming we're talking Kira Lewis Jr. I guess so. He's got a projection of 6, 13, and 13. So projecting around the same. I guess Lewis has got a slightly lower cap, which is nice. I honestly don't know. If I had to pick, I guess I'd pick Zeke Najee. He didn't look particularly good out there in Game 1, but he did get a decent amount of minutes. It seemed.
So Kira Lewis put up 1 point in 10 minutes in his opener. So I would have to lean the other way there. Zeke only played 11 minutes, but he had 3.5. So I don't think either one of them is a preferred play. I would probably try to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I would definitely look elsewhere. I will say Zeke at least looked aggressive playing, which is why I was going to lean him. He looked like he was at least, giving 100% on the court there. I don't know if that's going to translate to Sorare points, but he gets an A for effort in my book at least. Paul George or Kevin Durant?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to lean KD. I think here with Booker and Beal out, but
Yeah.
you also have the other side. I think that Clippers might also be missing some guys as well. But um, yeah, I'm
So
gonna go with Durant personally.
Durant has one game and he's projecting to hit 45. And Paul George has, I believe, two games and he's projected to hit the same. So because of that, and I think is his cap's a little lower. So I would go Paul George. I think you're right though. I think KD would probably score more. He's probably the better play. But I tend to be someone who's a little more risk adverse, and so I would go Paul George with the two games. But I do that. I think Durant's the better play, though. I think you're right that that's the play to make because you're trying to win. You're not trying to, put up a solid score you can go and show your mom and put on the refrigerator. We're trying to
I'm,
win, so you
I'm
got to
seeing
go
some comments
ceiling.
in seen some comments in the chat too. Pretty much the only injury news that came in while we've been live here is Cam Johnson is also ruled out. So Nets are going to be down two starters, so that could shake things up there. Probably arrow pointing up for Bridges,
Yeah,
Dayron Sharp, a few of those other guys that are still playing there.
yeah. I like the Bridges call because of that. And then yeah, I guess Sharp really will have. They'll have to use him to some degree. So maybe you're right there. All right.
Dinwiddie, but Dinwiddie is also he's already at 36 cap, inflated from last season. So I don't love that one
Yeah.
as much.
I'm not touching Dinwiddie. At least right now. Um, all right. Hero and Harris. I'm assuming we're talking Tobias Harris. I'm assuming they have a similar cap here. Hero 30 cap, projecting to hit 31 with two games. Tobias Harris 30, projected to hit 35 with two games. Ooh, yeah, they're right next to each other. That's a tough one. I mean, I don't love Tobias Harris. I think he's probably the most overpaid, under criticized player in the NBA. It's incredible how much money he's making and how little criticism he gets, considering how underwhelming his performances are. And I do love that Hero has a chip on his shoulder, and it seems like the Heat seem to be very shorthanded, which is good for Hero. Uh I think it's very close, but I'd probably pick Hero if I had to pick. What about you?
It's a coin flip for me. I'm going to go with the projections and lean towards Tobias. But my
Yeah.
heart goes with Tower Hero because I do like the chip on the shoulder narrative. Tobias does get a little bit more usage bump with James Harden doing whatever he's doing and not playing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I mean, Maxey, man, he's out there tearing it up. He's gonna have Tobias Harris just standing in the corner there at this point. Kaminga or Zaire? Ooh, this is a good one. I'm without even looking at the projections. I think I would hopefully think we both agree Kaminga, right? Because I think you pointed him out. He's got a lower cap than Zaire, and I think he's going to get a lot of usage.
Yeah, I mean, Kaminga is one of my favorite plays at that price level. I think both are great, and I think Zaire is getting a ton of minutes too. But love Kaminga there.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. Melton or Finney Smith? This gets a lot more interesting because, uh, Finney Smith might get some extra run with Cam Johnson being out. So we have Melton. He's got a cap of 20. He's projected to hit 26. And then Finney Smith, we have a cap of 21 projected for 14. And this was just updated, so this is not old projections here. So it looks like Melton's the clear play according to the projections. Would you? I guess I'd agree with that because I do love DeAnthony Melton, especially with the whole Harden situation. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like Finney Smith, even when he gets minutes, just sometimes just does nothing with them, and we kind of saw that in Game One. So he
Yeah,
had 20. He played 27 minutes, only 15 Sorare points, and we already saw Melton put up 24 in 24 minutes. So gonna lean Melton there.
yeah, and I mean to Finney Smith credit to defend him a little. I think he's a guy that does a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily pop up on the box score. He's a good defender, but we want the guys that are putting up the points and really, maxing out our Sorare scores. So I think that's the right call. We have Boban or Cornette. While this is a bit of a troll question because I don't think Boban will be playing. I don't even. He's on the Hornets right now, right? I don't-
Uh,
I, I don't even.
I think
Now I
he's
have
on
to. Now I have
Houston,
to
isn't he?
look.
I think he's still on
Yeah.
Houston.
Oh, that's what I meant. In my head, I thought Houston, but I said Hornets.
I wish someone would just free Boban. I feel like he could just put up some points for someone. They treat him like he can't run up and down the court. I feel like he's never been that out of shape or anything, but I don't know.
No. Yeah, I wish I would just like let it run for the memes. Come on. Like, what has Houston got to what are they playing for anyway? Just like let them run, like see what you really got under the hood there. But I would take he's actually projecting to put up 10 points.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Joe Connors in the chat says Landale's concussed and out.
oh wow. Man, I just bought a Landale. Luke Cornett's
Yeah, he did get
projecting
concussed.
Luke Cornett is projecting to hit 9. So they're basically same cap, same projection here. I mean, maybe I just picked Boban here for the memes because I do love Boban. But if I'm like really thinking about it, I personally kind of feel good about Cornett. I don't know if he'll actually do anything, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd lean Cornett, but that's a tough one. I think it's kind of a lose-lose, to be honest.
Coming into the show today, I didn't expect a Boban versus Cornett question here, but I think I would lean Boban just because anytime he gets minutes, I feel like he's putting up points. It's just a matter of if he's going to play, and if he's the backup center and is getting minutes, I would go Boban's way.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe I gotta instead of cornering the Cornet market, I might have to call an audible here and start scooping up Bobans for his renaissance. All right. Well, we have 13 minutes before lock. Real quick, do you want to? I think it'd be kind of cool if we went over our lineups that we have and talk about that a little. Oh wait, let's do this one. This one looks fun. 2 out of the 5, Nurkic, Duran, Tillman, quickly Sharp, Nurkic and Sharp just one game. Wow, I appreciate you including all the information there. I'm gonna pick quickly and Duran there. What do you think?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I'm definitely slotting in Duran in one of those spots, and then I'm kind of stuck between the back three there, with a slight lean towards quickly. I think.
Yeah. I think it's tough. I do think Duran's the play, and I do think Nurkic is kind of at the bottom there. So I would agree with you more or less. But none of them are really the worst ones. I think ultimately maybe you could have it Duran, Tillman quickly. You pick 2 out of those, just because Nurk and Sharp both have one game. I always just love the 2-game option as opposed to the 1 game, especially when you have multiple great picks like that. We got Brown and Keegan Murray or Tyus Jones and Josh Green. I'm going to go Brown and Keegan Murray there. What about you?
I'm going the other way for sure. I'm not fading Tyus, and I like Josh Green and what we saw out of him in the first game. Just not a Christian Brown guy right now, and I just don't think his role is going to be big enough. But I could be wrong there.
I think I'm just way too high on Christian Brown right now. I just feel like because everyone's like, oh, he's going to be the Bruce Brown. He's going to be the Bruce Brown of this team. He's going to be the 6th man. People were talking 6th man of the year contention, most improved player, like all this stuff. And I jumped on board that train because I'm like, dude, if Jokic can make Bruce Brown look like just the greatest 6th man ever, like why couldn't he do it for Brown? But I think you're right. I think I need to slow my roll on Christian Brown here for sure, and at least allow him to acclimate to his new position here. All right, I think we're going to do a few more and wrap it up. We do have the lock coming. Nurk or John Collins. I would lean Collins, but let's take a look at the projections here. 23 and 26 with 2 games, which is probably why I would lean, even though Nurkic has a slightly better projection. What about you, Ghost?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 2 games there. And Collins had a nice first game there, which was encouraging to see on the new team. So going to definitely take the extra game there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Well, I think the questions have slowed down. We're about to lock in 10 minutes. I think this is a good time to call it, and so we can go and make some last minute tweaks to any of our lineups. Thankfully, we didn't have any crazy injury news come across, so it was pretty tame all things considered. Yeah. Thanks, Ghost, for joining me. I really appreciate it as always. This has been a fun time. A bit chaotic. I kind of see how crazy it gets for Mike and why he might be like, oh, I gotta go buy this guy real quick. Because as we're going through these projections, I'm getting excited here. But yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
joining me. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Make sure to follow Ghost on Twitter. I'm at actually Jeb Bush on Twitter. And hopefully we are able to answer all your questions, and good luck in game week 2.
Thanks,
We'll see
guys.
you
Good
guys
luck,
later.
everyone.